so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
A little bit optically challenged here, but that's okay. We're doing great.
No, this is the most comfortable seat I've had all week.
Good. So we're here today to talk about your software-defined moment as a technologist when you stopped thinking about hardware and started thinking software first.
Well, I've always been in software. I studied computer science in school, and I've always been much more interested in programming and in architecting code than actually in building hardware. When I was a teenager, I actually read a book named The Soul of a New Machine. And The Soul of a New Machine is actually a story about Data General building a computer, and it was almost completely hardware-based. And it's like, that kind of made me decide that I wanted to look at the tech industry. But then when I went to school, I actually got into computer science and just enjoyed learning how computers work and learning how to make them do what you need to. So I've always been in software. Once I got out of school, I actually worked for typically hardware companies, but was always working on the software component of it. So just about everywhere in the computer tech industry, even if their main product was hardware, there was always a software component to it, and I was always the software defining person in those types of companies. There were some comments about 3 or 4 years ago when vSAN first started coming out about the software-defined storage, and I made a comment on Twitter that I'd been software-defining storage for about 20 years at that point.
Uh-huh. So is that your realm then, storage?
Well, I mean, it's storage, virtualization. If you take a look at my Twitter handle, it says storage, virtualization, and automotive technology, and those are all things that I'm interested in. So in addition to my high-tech job, I also do quite a bit on data acquisition on cars.
Oh, cool.
So
that's very cool. So what kind of benefit would you say that virtualization brings to storage then? I mean, there's obviously a reason you're thinking about software.
So, I mean, virtualization brings lots of things to storage. Virtualization kind of defined shared storage as we know it today. VMware was the first one to actually come up with a compelling use case for shared storage. Mm-hmm. In terms of software-defined storage, just when you get beyond the idea that you actually just need to store bytes and blocks and get into the idea that you actually have an awful lot of services that are required, that all becomes software-defined. So all the data protection services, performance enhancements, all of those are almost all software-defined changes that sit on top of just the hardware, physical, places where you store bytes.
Was there something that led you to storage in particular? It's niche, right? But it's interesting.
It's an interesting and somewhat longer story, but I'll go ahead into it. So I worked at Sun Microsystems for a while, and one of the things I was doing at Sun Microsystems was working on serial ports, RS-232 ports. Do you remember the cables hooking up modems from the 80s and 90s? Mm-hmm. So I was working on serial ports, and Sun started working on this new technology called fiber channel. And the old storage guys at Sun, the older than me storage guys at that point at Sun, said, you can't do storage over a serial connection. That's serial stuff. Why don't you give it to the serial port guy? So my introduction to storage was actually because I'd been working on serial ports, and the real storage guys didn't think that you could do serial attached storage. And of course the punchline of that story is that every piece of storage that's out there right now is a serial attached piece of storage.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So we are at VMworld Barcelona 2018. Yes. Are there any emerging trends or any announcements that you've heard this week, or even at VMworld US, that you're particularly excited about or looking forward to?
Well, you're going to cut this out anyway. No.
Oh, no. No.
No, it's an awful lot of what I've heard has just been evolutionary, expanding what's already out there and taking it, to a slightly larger scale. It's what VMware has done their entire history. Is it started off with just the idea that you could virtualize one processor, and I remember the monster VMs that were coming out every VMworld for quite a few years, and this year it's expanding into the hybrid cloud and taking advantage of some of the existing cloud services that are out there. It's a logical progression, logical evolution of where things are going. But I wouldn't say that it was really surprising or unexpected.
Do you have any tips or tricks for people maybe that did not get a chance to attend this VMworld, where they should look for more information or go to learn more?
I believe that most of the sessions are published after the fact, and you should be able to see them online. And it's there have been lots of very good sessions and lots of very experienced, well-spoken people presenting the information. And VMworld is always a treat for that reason.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Okay, thank you.
When you are ready to make your tech confession, join us at techconfessionstheshow.com.